The Dogman, outside my grandma's house. Dear Scary Stories NYC. When I was a kid, my family had a pretty terrifying Christmas Eve in which we were basically haunted by an upright walking canine, and an extremely scary looking one at that. The trouble was, only my younger sister and I were seeing it, and my grandmother was unwittingly urging me to go outside to my doom. That was the most traumatic experience of my entire childhood, and I'll tell you about it in some detail, as well as I can remember. I have been in touch with my sister Mary, and she says she does remember seeing the Dogman, but she doesn't really remember much of the story surrounding it. She was 9 at the time, and I was 13, so I'll have to do the best I can in remembering it for you, by myself. Our mom had passed away giving birth to my sister, and my father had to raise us with the help of some young women he employed as nannies who lived in our apartment building. He worked 2 different low-paying jobs to cover the bills, and we didn't get to see very much of him. At Christmas time, Dad moved us all in with his mother, our grandmother. We loved going to Grandma's as it was just like in the song. Over the river and through the woods to Grandmother's house we go. She lived in the woods, you see, south of Oil City in Pennsylvania, in a little house my sister always called a cottage. Of course, in our case, we'd drive west from Philadelphia, go on the Petroleum Street Bridge over the Allegheny River, through Oil City, and then through the woods, but that was close enough to light up the imaginations of me and my sister. We didn't feel poor. We felt like we got a Christmas just as good as the ones on TV. Dad had to work Christmas Eve and wouldn't get home till well after dark, but the 3 of us baked cookies and decorated the tree and got ready to welcome him and his brother Sal, a giant tough guy who was going to be spending Christmas with us. Grandma had asked me to run into town to pick up eggs for her, and in the excitement of that fun day, I kept forgetting. Soon, it started to get dark, and I put on my galoshes to run that errand. My sister Mary was crying and whimpering, looking out the window behind me. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "The big mean dog." I asked her what big mean dog, and she said, "The big mean dog that's gonna eat you up." Well, that got my attention. She was looking out the window, so I turned to do the same, and for just an instant, I saw it too. It was out there, a dark figure in the white snow, and when I turned to see it, that thing moved so quickly to hide itself behind a tree that I really only saw a dark blur. "What was that?" I asked, jumping up. Mary said she already told me what it was. It was the big mean dog that was going to eat you. By you, I mean me, not her. So she told me it was going to eat me. I asked, "Why me?" And she said it was because I was the only one stupid enough to go outside. If I hadn't seen something myself, I don't think I would have even listened to her, but as it was, I quizzed Mary on what exactly she had seen. She just kept crying and telling me that it was a really big, really mean dog, but it was also a monster. I went and got Grandma and I told her I can't go outside. There's a giant dog monster out there. She told me to stop making excuses and go get the eggs before the store closed. If I didn't go soon, we wouldn't be able to have eggs for breakfast in the morning. I explained again, this time more slowly, that there really was a giant dog monster out there, and that Mary said it was going to eat me. Grandma reminded me that Mary also used to talk about when she was a boy, and when she could fly, and when she owned a unicorn, and suggested that maybe there really wasn't a giant dog monster waiting to devour me out in the snow. Frustrated, I admitted I had seen it too. So Grandma asked me to describe what I had seen. I thought about it, and honestly, what I had seen was mainly a dark blur moving behind a tree. It seemed to go from a 4-footed squat to a bipedal upright stance as it darted behind the tree. "Well, there you go," Grandma said. "It couldn't be a dog. Dogs don't walk on 2 legs." I was not appreciating her sense of humor, and I refused to go outside. Grandma finally agreed that if I could point out this dog to her outside the window, she'd allow me to stay in, and we could just have oatmeal in the morning. So we walked to the window, and all 3 of us looked outside. All we saw was trees and snow, really. We waited for a while, but nothing was moving out there, and so Grandma told me to put on my coat and go get those eggs as she returned to the kitchen to continue her cooking and baking. Now, I was deathly afraid. I hadn't gotten a clear view of that creature my sister called a dog, but I knew it was large, and I knew it was tricky. It had hidden from my view on purpose, and that's not something that a friendly creature would do. Another thing was that my grandmother was right. Dogs don't walk on their hind legs. That meant this had to be something even scarier than a large feral dog. This thing had to be something unnatural, or maybe paranormal. The one thing I knew from movies and comic books was that once you introduce the supernatural or the paranormal, all bets are off. It could turn out to be almost anything. It could wind up being something that played by completely different rules than we do. What if it was a devil? What if it was a ghost? What if it was some kind of creepy, evil space alien? I stared off into the night, desperate to find it out, so that I had an excuse to stay indoors. The only thing I saw outside that was moving, though, was my own reflection in the glass. I looked pretty scared in that reflection, I'll tell you that much. I felt hopeless inside. I mean, I never disobeyed my grandmother, yet I knew it was suicide to take even one step outside that cottage into those woods. Suddenly, a dark, hairy face rose up from the ground directly on the other side of that window. It did look like a dog, my sister was right, but it was the ugliest dog you could ever imagine. I remember it being right there, inches from the glass, rising up until its eyes looked directly into mine, and then continuing to rise up until I felt like I was going to faint. It was dark gray to black, and had steam coming out of its black, leathery dog nose, which fogged up the window in front of it, then did so again at a higher place, then again and again with each breath out. As I fell backward onto the rug in surprise, it pulled its black lips back to reveal its long, long fangs. This took place as fast as you can say rhubarb, even though it's taking a lot longer for me to remember and explain it to you. When I fell backward, I almost jumped backward, but it was an automatic reaction, not something I thought of in advance. If you saw that face shoot up from the ground a few inches in front of you, I bet you'd find your body going into automatic mode and jumping backwards as well. It was at this moment when I screamed, and Mary screamed louder. I don't know if she was seeing what I was seeing, or if she was only shouting because I scared her when I did, but we both screeched at the top of our lungs. Remember that. I'll get back to it after I finish describing what I was looking at in that terrible moment. The hideous, wolf-like face rose up until I could see that it was placed on top of a body that was hairy like a dog, yet even taller than my father. Heck, this creature was way taller than my Uncle Sal, who I think was 6'4", if I'm remembering correctly. That's not to say that I saw a man outside that window, because this was not a human being. I can't tell you what it was any better than my sister could when she described it as a big mean dog. It had dog ears on top of its head, yet its chest was wide and strong, and I've never seen any kind of canine with huge pectoral muscles. Have you? Dogs generally have long, bony legs ending in paws with dog claws, right? I mean, what else? But this guy I was looking up at had arms to each side, thick ones, like a professional athlete, or my cousin Manny after he got let out of prison. He told me all he used to do while in stir was lift weights, and I was looking at an animal whose shoulders and arms could put my cousin Manny to shame. What had this ugly, upright dog been doing in its life that caused it to have muscles that big? What in nature builds a body to that extent? I don't think steroids grow on trees, so I'm pretty sure this creature got to look that way entirely naturally. So, what in nature would create a creature that ripped? Maybe I was right in the first place. Maybe this was not, in fact, a natural creature at all. I do remember being scared of the creature's eyes, and it's possible that was because of eye shine, but I honestly don't have specific memories of seeing the eyes glow. I know that's a big part of the Dogman mythos, but I don't know for sure if I was in fact looking at a Dogman. After all, it could have been a werewolf. It could have been something else entirely. I'm not sure what a Dogman really is, or a werewolf for that matter. I know what they are in comic books, but in reality? I'll have to wait till they catch one and dissect it before I know. Or at the very least, I'll wait till they have DNA evidence and can tell us what family of animal this creature belongs to. When the two of us kids screamed, my grandmother came over to us, of course, and the Dogman left. I don't remember when it left or where it went to. I just remember looking at it, then looking at my grandmother asking me what was wrong, then noticing that the werewolf had once again disappeared itself. This poor old sweet woman now had two kids crying hysterically that she had to calm down. Grandma reassured us that there were no monsters outside, but Mary and I both knew that she was wrong. It was that terrible moment when you know more than your adult guardian, but when you try to warn her, she only thinks you're being disobedient and talking back. When she was able to calm us down, she told us to sit still and not open the door for anyone, no matter who it was, while she was gone. Gone? Where was she going? Grandma decided that she would run out to the store herself to get the eggs, but Mary and I both understood that this would be a pretty bad idea. We begged our grandmother not to go outside. We implored her to remain home with us. We warned her that it was too dangerous outside, and I ran from window to window, looking out and hoping to find the Dogman to show her, or the werewolf, or whatever it might have actually been. I couldn't see it any place, but I knew that didn't necessarily mean it had gone away. It could be hiding under any one of those windows again, just waiting for a chance to jump up and say boo. Nevertheless, I couldn't locate it in time, and Grandma made me promise I wouldn't open the door to anyone while she was gone. Tearfully, I promised, but I was an emotional wreck as I obviously did not want my grandmother going out there and getting hurt. Grandma opened the door anyway, and there he was. I could basically make out his entire body, but his head was up too tall for me to see it at first. And then the creature bent down a little to fit his dog-like head under the top of the door frame. As muscular as the shoulders were, the legs seemed twice as massive. Although it stood like a man on two legs, those were not human legs that it stood on. Those were dog legs. Dog's hind legs, I mean. For the first time, I saw that this so-called dog had hands. Not large paws. Those were hands. 4 fingers on each plus a thumb, and that makes 2 hands. It had claws so long that I don't know why it didn't just tear Grandma's front door apart and come inside. Those hands looked as strong as they looked deadly, but at the moment, they just hung to each side of that massive, canine-like man thing, waiting for their opportunity to hurt and destroy. In that instant, I thought I was seeing something born of a devil, or even the devil. If it were a creature meant to walk upright, then God would have given it legs like we have. Those legs it had were meant to be on a four-legged beast, not on an upright humanoid. That's why I didn't feel that God had anything at all to do with the creation of this monstrosity. My grandma looked so tiny in comparison to it that I went cold in 1 second. I mean, it felt like my body flash froze. I was about to watch something horrible happen. I was about to watch that dogman reach in and grab my grandmother. I was about to witness something that would traumatize me for life. Even at that age, I accepted this, but I stared forward at the scene anyhow. The small human woman standing just inside the doorframe. The clearly 7 or 8 foot tall beast only 10 or 12 inches in front of her. The moment stood still in time, for what felt to me like an hour, but might not have even been a second. And then Grandma closed the door. I heard it close. I heard the lock click into place. Grandma remained perfectly, rigidly still, except for one arm that reached out and double-locked that door. She was silent. I was silent. Mary didn't say anything either. I neither heard nor saw the dogman moving away from his position outside the door. The only thing I heard was the winter wind gusting outside. And then Grandma turned around, taking her coat off in one movement. "I'll call your father and have him pick up the eggs," she said as calmly as she could, but I could hear my grandmother's voice trembling. I had never heard her scared before, so I started crying again, and that started Mary crying. Both of us were ushered upstairs to the guest bedroom and told to stay put. Grandma said she had to go make a grown-up phone call and she needed us to be brave for her. She put some cartoon show on the TV and left us alone to calm down, which we eventually did. So, our grandmother called our dad asking him to pick up eggs, and oh, by the way, could you please chase off the 8-foot-tall werewolf stalking her and the kids? Thanks, hon. That's what my grandmother was like. She kept her emotions in check and worked through her problems one by one. When Dad eventually got home with his brother Sal, the two of them, fully armed, searched the property for intruders. They did find dog tracks in the snow, but they were unable to locate any sort of prowlers on the property, whether human or otherwise. Sal asked his mom, my grandma, if she might have seen a bear and mistaken it for an upright dog. Grandma said she wasn't sure what she saw, but Mary and I kept insisting that it had a dog's head, and dog's legs, and dog fur, but it had a man's chest, and it walked upright. Our dad told us that nature doesn't make things that look like what we were describing, and reminded us that he had raised us to tell the truth. I expected we would get punished, but Grandma calmed Dad down, telling him that on Christmas Eve, all sorts of strange and impossible things are known to occur. She also told him that even though she didn't know what we had seen, and that she wasn't going to claim she saw a werewolf, she did know for a fact that Mary and I were speaking the truth to the best of our abilities. Dad clearly didn't know what to make of that, but Grandma started bringing out the dinner she had been preparing all day, and it soon became something more like Christmas Eve and less like Halloween. The incident was dropped. None of us ever saw anything like it again, and neither Dad nor Uncle Sal ever believed one single word we told them about. The dogman, outside my grandma's house. Our executive producer is Timothy Walker. He fights evil like a histamine blocker. It's more badass than the baddest punk rocker. That's our EP named Timothy Walker. Please join us in thanking today's executive producer, Timothy Walker. Tim is one of our favorite $10 channel members, so he gets all our perks, from secret uncensored Sunday stories far too wild to tell on this channel, to our over 21 hours of archived, uncensored scary stories, to our secret previews of episodes whenever possible. Tim Walker gets it all, and so can you. All you have to do is join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com, or do what Timothy Walker did and click that join link under this or any of our videos to become a channel member. And now, here's TV spokespuppy Henry Lee Dogman to fill you in on any deets I may have left out. Hank? Thanks for watching till the end. If you liked what you saw, please consider clicking like on the video or sharing it with your friends and family that you think might also be interested. If you would like to see more of our work, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon next to the subscribe button so that YouTube will alert you when we put out a new video. To become a channel member and gain access to our special perks, you can click that join link under each of our videos. Another option is to join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. You can join for as little as 99 cents on YouTube or $1.50 at peterbernard.com, and that gains you access to our weekly secret uncensored episodes. If you'd like to see our 21 hours of archives of uncensored Dogman stories, then please join at the $3 level or above. To get to watch our shows in advance of the public, please join at our $10 level. That gets you all the perks. If you join our channel memberships, you need to check our community page here on YouTube in order to get the links to the secret videos and other perks. If you're in the PayPal subscribers club, Peter will email you all the news and links himself. Once joining the PayPal club, which is Peter's homemade club, please give him a chance to see that you've joined and to compose you a personal welcome email, as none of that is automated. But whichever you join, we'll name you an executive producer for the next available episode. Do you have a scary experience that you'd like to share with us? You can email us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or call our Scary Stories voicemail hotline at 804-LA-SCARY. That's 804-537-2279. It's a Google voicemail box, so that means it keeps cutting off after every 3 minutes. If your story is longer than that, please keep calling back and we can piece it together on our end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.